Hello, hello, and welcome back to the podcast. It is so good to be on here and sharing my face with you today. I know that the last episode, which was a two-part series, episodes 4.1 and 4.2, parts 1 and 2 of my health journey, which ended up being like a 2-hour episode, was a voice-only episode. And I just felt called to do it that way. So it's really nice to be back on here with my face. And today is September 19th, 2025. That's the day that I'm sitting to record this episode for you. And it is officially 1 month. Or let me say that again. It has officially been 1 month since my fibroid removal surgery, also known as a myomectomy. And yeah, it's been a very interesting experience over the last month. I had expectations that my body would do things differently, and that I would feel as better as quickly as the people on, the Reddit threads that I was reading, or other people's YouTube videos or blog experiences or things like that. And unfortunately for me, that hasn't been the experience. Now, I do want to back up and say that I have been feeling better. I mean, the surgery went down, and actually, before I get into the full story, that is what today's episode is. Today's episode is a recap of how things have been going, what the surgery was like, what waking up from, actually, like, what the pre-surgery process was like. Surgery, I was out under anesthesia, so who the heck knows? And then, like, coming out from surgery, and then the recovery over the past month. So today is my 1 month post-op update, okay? And now remember, I do think this part is important to preface that I am a 41-year-old female. Like, a lot of the videos and things that I was watching of other people, they were younger, like at least a decade younger. They were like in their 20s and 30s. And we just recover faster when we're in our 20s and 30s. So I will say that. And I do have other health conditions. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I have like a lot of inflammation that was in my body. I probably partially related to the thyroid stuff and then also related to the fibroid stuff. And it also triggered, I was pre-diabetes since I was in my early 20s. And that is genetic, that is family. And actually, I've been following this really awesome influencer. I will drop his details, especially for any other South Asian people, especially South Asian people who are quite small. I'm not a big girl. I'm actually like a decently petite-sized person. But anyhow, apparently that people with South Asian ancestry, we just have, because of all of the historical things that we've lived through and we've experienced, and the famines, partially because of the climate and like the region, and are the monsoons coming or are they not coming? So there was like very much a feast famine thing going on historically in the region, and then also colonialism, forced famines or fabricated famines, things like that. So I will drop that influencer. I mean, he's actually a real doctor, and his specialty is South Asian metabolic disease, I believe. So I will drop his information. I want to invite him onto the podcast. Okay, let's fingers crossed that he says yes when I get around to inviting him to the podcast. But anyhow, I'm realizing I didn't introduce myself. Hi, Neurospicy Brain. But let me finish talking about this influencer and then I will come back. But so this doctor, he talks about how South Asians, like our threshold is lower for getting bumped into things like diabetes and pre-diabetes and other metabolic diseases. So that's the point I was trying to make. So keeping in mind that as I tell you this story, I am 41 years old, and that I also have familial and genetic predispositions to stuff, like Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That is one of the conditions I have. And then I, we'll just call it pre-diabetes, diabetes, whatever. And those do tend to slow down the healing process. I'm also a highly fucking sensitive person. I still have feelings about that uh, terminology, but it's also known as, I mean, it's actually a real thing. It's been studied for years and years and years, and it's also known as sensory processing sensitivities. Um, but, it's just easier to say I'm just highly sensitive and very aware of all of the things that go on in my body. And so, with all of that said, I will formally and officially introduce myself. Hello, my name is Shirani Pathak, and I have a new intro that I am so excited to share. I am a former therapist turned spiritual healer, teacher, mentor, and coach for people who are here to eradicate supremacy culture and know that the work begins within. If you're here with me, then you know, or some part of you knows, that in order for the world out there to change, in order for the toxic, oppressive systems and structures out there to change, we have to do it in here because systems change when the people within them do. And so that's who I am. I'm really excited about my new intro. Maybe another day I will share an episode on navigating that and owning some of that for myself because that was a really big process also. I mean, I literally have, as of this month, I officially have 21 years in the social services and mental health profession. And for the longest time, I had just gotten so burnt out and so traumatized being in the mental health industrial complex that I shut that shit all down and tried to run as far away as possible. And I do know that running away from something is a sign that you are probably in a trauma response. And over the last several years, it has taken me a while to realize and recognize that, oh shit, this was literally me dealing with the trauma of being a direct service worker in the mental health industrial complex for like 20 plus years. Okay. And a part of that has also included the incarceral industrial complex, the prison industrial complex. A part of the time also included the medical industrial complex. Okay. I have, as a social worker by training, I have worked in a lot of industrial complexes. So no wonder I was burnt the fuck out and shut it all down. Okay. And now recently I've been on a process of really rediscovering and reclaiming and owning all of my prior experience. So that is why I'm excited for the new intro that I've shared with you. And like I said, another day we will have an episode about that. For today, I want to share with you my 1 month post-op to follow up from everything that we talked about in the prior episodes 4.1 and 4.2, the two-part series that totals 2 hours, which was called Ignored, Neglected, and Dismissed. I think it was like women's reproductive health, navigating women's reproductive health, something like that. And on YouTube, it's under my fibroid and anemia story. So that's how you will find it. But if you just go to my channel, if you're on YouTube, if you just go to my channel, you'll find it. If you're listening in on the podcast, you will just scroll and find it. And the podcast, by the way, is the Fierce Authenticity Podcast. I'm debating changing the name. It's still a debate, but for now, it is still the Fierce Authenticity Podcast. Anyways, okay, I have a lot to say, apparently. And so let's talk about surgery. Surgery was on August 21st, 2025. So it's been a month. Yesterday was Thursday. It was four Thursdays ago. So yesterday was officially 4 weeks since surgery. And it was really, really interesting. I had gotten so concerned. Like, I don't recall if I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I had been masking up as a person who was experiencing anemia, like really severe anemia as a result of the fibroids. I was someone who ended up having like just a more, and then of course the Hashimoto's, the borderline diabetes, whatever. Like it had just, and the chronic fucking inflammation in my body from this whole host of shit and the stress of living in the world today and being a highly sensitive person, right? Like you combine all of that, and my body was just so incredibly inflamed and didn't have all of the right building blocks because, oh, by the way, when you have these massive fibroids or when you have fibroids, I'm feeding it iron. Like I'm giving myself iron supplementation. I'm getting iron IV treatments, but little did I know that basically that further goes to feed the blood supply to the fucking fibroids. So anyhow, I know I'm referring it to it as the fucking fibroid. Maybe one day that relationship will change, but for the moment it's the fucking fibroid, okay? And so anyways, here we are. We are, so it was a couple weeks before the surgery where numbers, of course, cases of COVID, influenza A and B, like things were starting to peak and escalate, the summer peak, right, in August, right, as the kids were going back to school, all the things, right? And not that I have kids, but I have a lot of people in my life who have kids or interact with kids or all the things, right? And so with cases starting to rise again, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just mask up because I cannot not have this surgery on August 21st. So I was masking up, I was distancing, I was doing not exactly like isolating, but along those lines. And then the week of surgery, no joke, I started to feel some like sinusy stuff, some sniffly stuff, like literally 2 days, 3 days before surgery. And I started to freak the fuck out. I was like, oh my fucking God, I cannot get sick. I cannot get sick. Started having some of the vitamin C. Continuing to take my supplements. Actually, no, I think I had to come off the supplements for a week before the surgery. Because, they're like, I mean, I kept vitamin C was okay, vitamin D was okay. Talk to your own surgeon, get your own medical advice. This is just what my medical advice was from my surgeon and for my particular case and what I was experiencing and going through. So that's the disclaimer. Make sure you talk to your own medical professional to figure that part out. But my surgeon for me said it was okay to continue taking vitamin C and the vitamin D. So those I did continue. So I was just like, okay, vitamin C and D, let's keep me well. Okay. And then the night before the surgery, there was so much like ickiness happening. There was like tiredness happening. And I was like, oh my fucking God, I can't not get this surgery. And so I did what I know typically fixes me up. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, but I popped a Benadryl. I went to bed early because it was like a 6:15 a.m. wake up call. But prior to that, there was actually this sugar drink they gave me that I had to drink. It was like an Ensure pre-surgery drink. I thought it was going to taste like the nasty ass sugar drink they give you when they're testing you for diabetes. Like they give you this drink and then they take your blood once an hour every 4 hours to see. And it's thick and it's syrupy and it's disgusting. And I thought this drink was going to be like that. Thankfully, it was not. It was actually like just kind of like a flavored water. And so I was really grateful for that. And I had to take that at 4:45 a.m. Like my check-in time was 7 a.m. for surgery. And so I had to take it at 4:45 a.m. and finish drinking it before 5 a.m. I had to stop drinking or eating food by 11 p.m. And then I had to stop with or I had to take the drink by 5 a.m. I had to be done taking the drink. So I had to wake up to do that, and then go back to sleep for whatever I could, and then like 6:15 to wake up. So I did go to bed early, took a Benadryl, went to bed early, and when I woke up, my symptoms were gone. So there must have been like an allergy spike or something that had occurred. Maybe it was the stuff I ate for dinner. I definitely tried to eat it clean, but we did end up going out to or getting Indian food takeout because we had my husband, my mom, and my mother-in-law. We were all having dinner together that night before surgery, and we got Indian food takeout. I had like a samosa, and I can't remember what else I had. Um, but I ate my meal. Like I made khichdi. It is like basically the Ayurvedic or Indian equivalent of congee. And so that's what I had made for me to keep my body healthy and well. But I did have like a samosa or half a samosa or something like that. So and we were actually sitting outside under the tree I'm looking at right now. We were sitting underneath it. So it's possible that it just triggered like an allergy, something or other. And the Benadryl like saved my butt. I woke up. I wasn't feeling so great when I had to take the sugar drink. I was like, oh, whatever, half asleep still. But then when I woke up at like 6:15, I was no joke, jumping for joy, ecstatic as hell. I was literally fucking dancing throughout my house because I woke up feeling so much better. Like stuffiness, the fatigue, all of it gone, 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 gone. And it was amazing. amazing. And so I was like, oh my God, yes, surgery is happening today. Like there were no messages on my phone. No, we have to cancel. We have to postpone. Nothing. And so I literally was jumping for joy and dancing around my house. And my husband and was literally looking at me like a crazy person. And I am saying that in jest, of course, whatever. I'm not going to be PC here right now. But yeah, I was literally jumping, dancing. I was like so fucking excited that I was feeling better and the surgery had not been canceled and we were going through with the procedure. And I was just elated. And my husband was very confused. He was like, I've never seen someone so excited for surgery. And I'm like, yeah, because this means I will finally get relief. And my mom was kind of with him, like, I'm glad she's happy. This is gonna be good for her. And like, yeah, I don't know that I've seen anyone excited for surgery either. But you know what? That's just me. That's my story. That's how it went. So I'm dancing around, getting ready. We drive down to Kaiser. It's only 4 minutes from my house. Get into the surgery center, check in. And then I can't remember how long I waited, but I was hanging out with my family where, the nurse came and explained some stuff to my family, how the process is going to work, confirming the names of my contacts, who they would be calling, confirming there's an actual human that's going to come and pick me up and put me in the car and take me after the surgery. Now, it did happen as an outpatient surgery. It was a robotic-assisted laparoscopic myomectomy. That is the procedure that I had. And it is still a major fucking surgery. Like they're actually going inside and doing some major, major, major surgery on your uterus. And so it was a major surgery and there was, it's not like I had like this huge 20 centimeter fibroid or like 40 fibroids in there. It's not like that, but it's still a major surgery. It was 10 centimeters. The MRI showed I had three, the big one and then two smaller ones. And the goal was to get all of them, right? And so even though the laparoscopic or the robotic assisted laparoscopic surgeries are the most least the most minimally invasive, aka the least invasive procedures at this time. So even though it is like a very minimally invasive procedure, it is still a major fucking surgery on my internal organs, okay? And so but it was interesting because it was an outpatient surgery. Like it was your surgery is at this time, and then you should have, time to wake up from anesthesia. We're going to make sure. And everyone, all the YouTube videos I had watched, shout out to all of those folks who shared their stories, all the Reddits that I had read, shout out to all those people who shared your stories, which is why I'm so openly and in such detail sharing my story. Okay. But yes. It was an outpatient procedure, and they want you to wake up from surgery, they want you to walk, they want you to pee. They want to know that you can do those things, and then they send you home. And that's literally what they do. And so I went in. There were some unexpected things, like they had to do some sort of rectal suppository, and I was like, "Whoa, what's this?" And they're like, "Oh, it's supposed to soften your cervix. The doctor is going to be," and I was like, "My cervix? I thought we're going in from the top of my belly. Like, what's happening to my cervix?" But then I was like, you know what? And I think the nurse was kind of like, we're just putting it in because your doctor told me." And I was like, "Okay." But anyway, so yeah, but it was kind of cool. Like there was this blanket, but it was like this disposable, hospital gown type material, but they filled it with warm air and it was just like a fluffy cloud. I had posted some pictures on my stories. I don't know that I actually turned it into a reel that stays stationary. I think I might do that. I might put them together and create a reel on my Instagram and for here on YouTube. But it was just like this fluffy cloud and it made me feel a little bit better about the whole experience. And then, of course, after they had me all prepped and ready, the anxiety did start to kick in of holy shit, I'm having like a major surgery. And then I remembered one of my mentors was like to practice the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique, right? Like what are 5 things you can see? What are 4 things like you can hear? What are, all the things. And so I was like, oh, right, grounding techniques. Let's go ahead and do that now. So I did some grounding techniques. The anesthesiologist came by, had a conversation with me and my mom. When they were prepping me, my mom wasn't allowed back there. It was just me. But then after they had me all prepped and ready, they allowed my mom back in. Love my husband, but my mom is a retired nurse. And so she was definitely the person who I wanted in a medical procedure with me as my person. My husband was there. He was on site. He was in like the waiting room or whatever. But my mom came back to be with me in the actual room. And then they had me all prepped. And then what happened? Oh, the anesthesiologist came by. My mom gave him a little bit of history about when I had my tonsils taken out at the age of 8, how I did with anesthesia then. And then with my grandmother, apparently my maternal grandmother had some trouble with anesthesia. And so she just gave him that history. Okay, cool, great. A little while later, the surgeon comes in. And truly, shout out to Dr. Bowie. She was incredible and amazing. And I will share the story of her another time because there is such a teachable moment. Like in the frameworks that I teach, like she literally embodied all of the frameworks that I teach. And so I want to do like a case study as a patient of hers. I want to do a case study on the experience I had with her. But again, that's a podcast for another day, or that's an episode for another day. For today, it's really to share about this experience, but she was incredible and amazing the entire way. And so she came in, say hi, help ease some of my nerves a little bit. And then literally just a few minutes later, they are rolling me back into the OR, the operating room. And it's funny because, I did go through Kaiser as I shared in the previous episodes. And it's one of those things where Kaiser's Kaiser. And the South San Jose location, I think it was like their original location. It's known as San Jose. And so it's a little dated. And so the surgery center, like prep area was a little janky. It wasn't the best and it wasn't the worst, but it was like, whatever. Um, and I kid you not, they rolled me, they like wheeled me. One of the nurses, the OR nurses came and they wheeled me into, I kid you not, and like when they got to the operating room, she opens this big giant door. Someone opens this big giant door, and all of a sudden it was like, la, like you've seen it in your own life, or you've seen it and like a video or a movie that you've watched where like a door can open and all of a sudden it's like this whole other world. And I did not even get a chance to like fully look around and see what was in there, but it was bright and it was white and it was clean. It was so clean. It was so sterile. Of course, it has to be. It was so state of the art. It was just like walking into a whole, well, being rolled into a whole different world. And I was like, what the fuck? I did not even get a chance to look around. I didn't even see the robot, didn't even get a chance to do any of that because the anesthesiologist is just like, hi, here you go. Here's a cocktail to put you out. Some people that say it's like having a few glasses of wine. I don't know. Here you go. And boom, literally like within 30 seconds of being wheeled into that room, I was out. Like I could barely even get off the bed they wheeled me in onto the operating table. I could barely because I was just clunked out. Because I'm really fucking sensitive to like all that kind of shit. And I hadn't been drinking either as a part of my preparation. I mean, I haven't really been drinking much, anyways, over the last year plus since the health thing. But I had definitely not been drinking because I was again trying to increase my chances of good health and so to decrease as much inflammation in my body as possible. And so, yeah. So then the surgery happened. Like he knocks me out. I have no fucking clue what happens. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the recovery area. And at that point, I don't think my mom was there yet, but I was very groggy. They're like trying to rush me through all the things. And I'm like, I'm super fucking groggy. I started to get nauseous, like all the things. At some point, they eventually allowed my mom back there. I just remember my mom being like, yeah, her grandma took a while to wake up from anesthesia. Yeah, her grandma used to get nauseous, things like that. And, so yeah, I was grateful to have my mom back there. And then I was eventually able to be coherent enough. And I think it took me like a couple hours to get out of there. I got wheeled into surgery about 9:15 in the morning. Like and then I got wheeled out of surgery at about 11:45, 11:50, something like that. So it was about a 2.5 hour procedure. And turns out the surgeon found not three, but five fibroids. And the other two were also super teeny tiny. Actually, the other two were way teeny tiny baby ones. On my post-op appointment last week, she said they were like little pimples practically. But she took them out. That was the goal, take them out because whatever you don't take out is going to grow back, right? So she did take all five out. 100,000% she believed that she did thoroughly investigate and inspect everything that she could to make sure there was nothing else. And I do trust and believe that. And that's one of the reasons I went with her. As I shared in the previous episodes, it's very important to feel into what your body is telling you about who the best match for you is going to be. And I felt her warmth, I felt her care, I felt her precision, and I felt her meticulousness. Like I knew she was going to be very meticulous. And so, yeah, so she got all five that were visible, whether it was via imaging or when she actually got in there. I'm very pleased to report that the fibroid was benign, thankfully. That was the anticipation. It didn't have any, cancer type anythings. It just looked like a regular old fibroid, a regular old mass of malfunctioning cells that came together and just grew and grew and grew, right? And so she did. She got out the big one. She got out the other two that had showed up on the imaging. And then she did get the other two that were unexpected. But when upon visual inspection of everything in there, everything else looked good. Ovaries, fallopian tube, like everything else looked great. It was literally just these fibroids that I had been dealing with that was making my life a living hell for at least 4.5 years by the time I had had that surgery. So yeah, that's how that went down. Eventually I got coherent enough that I was able to walk to the bathroom and handle my business. There was some pain from the catheter they insert when you're actually in the surgery. When I woke up, thank God there was no catheter. There was none of that when I woke up. There was just like some compression socks that also had ice or something like that. And there was ice also to help me where the incisions were. I think the ice was on the incisions. I don't remember. But basically, like, again, I was just kind of dealing with some nausea, just dealing with like some, whoa, what the fuck is like going on? Where am I? Like, just the wooziness of coming out of anesthesia. And so, yeah, they wheeled me out at like 11:50 something. I didn't actually get home until 3 something, like 3:15, because it took a couple hours for me to actually wake up. Like they kept trying to rush the process, and I'm like, yo, I'm still like fucking asleep. Don't even. But everything was fine. Everything went well. No complications. Everything looked great. And I was able to walk and pee, and they're like, okay, great, now we're ready to wheel you out and send you home. Peace out, bye. Like on to the next, right? And so my mom and my husband got me home, got me situated onto my favorite recliner, and that's where I was posted up for most of like the last month. That is where I have been posted up for most of the last month. Um, but definitely those first few days I was posted up there. And it's really interesting. And they were very, very, very strict on how much actual pain meds they gave you of the narcotic variety. And so they did give me Oxy, and they only gave me a 2.5 day supply of this Oxy with a shit ton of paperwork about substance use disorder and the dangers and how, and I am glad that they did give such intense like paperwork around it and information and talk to you about it and stuff like that. Because in the past, there have been so many people who have developed substance use disorder simply because they went in for surgery or they had some sort of pain and their doctors just prescribed them these narcotics, and then they developed, an addiction to it because that's what these substances do, right? So at first I was like, what the fuck? They only gave like 2.5 days of this stuff, but whatever. Like they gave all this paperwork. But most of the people that I had spoken to said that they were fine. Like they only needed it for about a day, day and a half. Well, that was my experience too. I only needed it for about day and a half. I think I took about a day and a half of the oxy. And but yeah, so I got posted up on my couch and or on my little recliner and with my heating pad on my back. You know, they brought me some ice, they brought me some food. I was hungry by then because it had been more than 12 hours since I had eaten and I had all this work done. And then at some point the nausea started coming back. There was also like an Advil Tylenol combo or ibuprofen acetaminophen combo that they were having you do simultaneously with the oxy. And the oxy was really just for like the first 24 to 48 hours when things like were really bad. And a lot of my friends in the recovery rooms, especially, had told me it's okay, take the medicine. Like, don't try to be a hero, take the medicine. It's there as a tool to help you. And so that was really great advice for me to have. And yeah, so it was a really just yeah, that was the experience. And then later on that first day when I got home, I had placed a pillow. Like when I went to eat, I put a pillow on my belly. And I guess I didn't realize that there must have been too much pressure from when I put the pillow on my belly because I got up to go to the bathroom or something. And then my mom was like, oh, your dress is bloody. Like, oh shit, like we better go have a look at what is going on underneath some of these, underneath your clothes. And so, unfortunately, we think that it was probably was the pressure from the pillow or like from the fucking coughing because you cough. There's been this like breathing tube shoved down your throat. There was like soreness in my mouth. It felt like when I had like a crown, like some dental work done, and they had like my mouth propped open and these dental tools and stuff. So it was like that soreness around my lips and from how and my mom's like, yeah, that was from the breathing tube. So there was some just discomfort that I had in that initial 24-hour period. But the most okay, so anyway, so then there was like blood, and they put some sort of like they put steri strips, and then they put gauze, and then they also put that little clear tape that they use when you get a tattoo. And not that I have any tattoos, but I have loved ones that do, and they come out with that like skin tape thing that they put over it. So yeah, so blood had collected underneath the gauze and kind of in that, and it was just like, ew, gross. And my mom was like, well, we'll just have to keep an eye on it. And tomorrow when we remove the like, because you have to leave that on for 24 hours. And so it was like, we'll just inspect again. This is why my mom, the medical professional, I had her be here to support me with this. And so yeah, so that was really creepy and gross and weird. Like I just don't do blood. And yeah, so that was like one of the little complications we had at home. Four of the five bled. And yeah, but what was most unexpected for me was I started to get this really, really, really painful feeling in my vagina and in my cervix. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening in my like vagina right now? And that was like as the anesthesia was starting to wear off. And thankfully, it was only that first day. Like after I went to sleep and woke up the next day, like the pain had subsided in that region. But the cool part about a system like Kaiser is I have the app. I did go in like in a lucid moment. I went in and I looked. I was like, I wonder if my surgery notes are here. Like, and they were like, because my surgeon's amazing. And so my surgery notes were already there, including some pictures. And I could see my beautiful uterus. I mean, yes, it had that fibroid, but like everything looked so pink and just healthy in there, you know? But anyways, and so they had talked about like this tool that they had used, like in the cervix or in the uterus. I don't remember exactly what but I was like, oh, right. The nurse said that there's something they needed to soften my cervix for. Maybe they inserted something. And then there was like this thing, a medical tool that I didn't understand the word of in the notes. So I went and I Googled it and saw this fucking torture contraption device that they had shoved up my vagina to hold my uterus in place as they did the surgery. So it's like a device just so they can like uh, from my understanding on the internet, okay? Is this a device that they use to help the surgeon, one, hold it in place so it's not wibble wobbling all around, but to kind of hold it more steady to allow the surgeon to do their job. And then it can also be tilted and angled to help the surgeon access parts, because the laparoscopic surgery goes through your abdomen. And so, yeah, so I was like, oh, well, this is probably why my vagina fucking hurts. And I wish someone had talked about that. So I'm telling you that that was the unexpected experience I had from my robotic assisted laparoscopic myomectomy. I'm looking at the time. I really need to wrap this up because I do want to get to an Al-Anon meeting right now. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I usually don't talk about what my recovery program is, but there, now you know. Anyhow, so I'm trying to get to a meeting that starts in 20 minutes and is 15 minutes away. So I'm going to try to wrap this up. And I do think that the most important part is that first coming out of it, right? Like, because that was like the most intense experience. And like I said, that pain in my vagina, it was so painful. Like, so painful. Um, and I'm grateful, like I said, that I took pain meds and went to sleep. And then the next morning, that pain had subsided. And by like 24 hours, that pain was gone. So I was really grateful for that. And yeah, so we took the dressings off, the dressings on the 5 incisions that I had. And by we, I mean my mom took them off because, again, that kind of shit grosses me out. And so took the dressing off the incisions. My mom was like, well, the steri strips are still here. We're not supposed to take the steri strips off. Let's just leave them on. We'll just monitor it. We'll track it. The blood had dried up. So she's like, okay, that means there's no more new bleeding at least, which is good. It must have just been from the pressure you had applied on your, with that pillow. Don't do that again. And I was like, uh-huh, yep, we're not doing that again. Took my first shower, 24 hours later. And my mom helped me. I mean, the first day, she had to help me into the shower. She had to help me out of the shower. She had to help me wipe my body. I mean, literally, you are very limited abilities, very limited capacity to do anything, right? And so that's part of why I had her there. I had made myself a giant pot full of khichdi the day before. So I had meals that I knew were good for me. And I had also made a giant pot full of bone broth because I knew that those were also supportive in the healing and repair process. So that was like my first couple of days right after surgery, like 24, 48 hours right after surgery. As I mentioned, I took the Oxy about 2.5 days. And then what happened? And then la 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 la. Yeah, I just was posted up on my little recliner with my heating pad and my blankies, and I did a lot of sleeping. So much sleeping. Like I would have bursts where I could be awake for like a half an hour at a time. But there was a lot of sleeping happening, especially that first week. And I was getting tired very easily. You are supposed to walk around, and my doctor's like, but that doesn't mean you're walking like around the block. That means you're getting up every couple hours to walk to the bathroom, to walk to the kitchen, to just go outside, that kind of stuff. So I was really glad that my doctor had told me that, it's not like we're out there walking a marathon. Or walking around the block. We are literally just trying to make sure that your body is moving. So get up and walk around. Another piece of advice I had received that was phenomenal and is still phenomenal from another friend who had had a surgery, a reproductive surgery. I think hers was on her ovaries. And she mentioned if you have a bed that elevates, like one of those adjustable beds, definitely use that. And I was like, oh, interestingly enough, we do have an adjustable bed. My mother-in-law's old bed in the guest room, we have the adjustable bed frame. It's never been plugged in since my mother-in-law moved out 6 years ago. 7 years ago almost that she moved out. Like it had never been plugged in. But I was like, you know what? Like the night before surgery, I was like, let's go down there. Let's plug this in. Let's make sure this works. And it did. And I was so grateful because that is exactly what I have been sleeping on and am continuing to sleep on because the incisions are on my abdomen. Okay, well, I'm putting my palm out, using my hand as an example. I don't think I'm going to make it to this meeting. It is now in 17 minutes and I'm still here mid-thought. So we're just going to finish these thoughts. But anyhow, so yeah, I have my palm up and I'm using like my fingers will be the top part of my body and then the bottom part of my body is my palm itself, okay? And the little pads right underneath my where my fingers connect to my palms, that'll be my abdomen, okay? And so there are 5 incisions right here on my abdomen. And so it's really painful because they're stitched up and there's 5 incisions. And it was really painful to lay completely flat. It was like, ow, 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 don't do that. And so I had to elevate the bed and elevate the upper part of my body a little bit so that it wouldn't be completely flat and stretched out. So even now, I am still sleeping. It's been a month. I'm still sleeping in the guest room on the guest bed with the bed slightly elevated. And it's the wildest thing because it's barely elevated 10 degrees, okay? Maybe 20 degrees tops that it's been elevated. But it makes a significant difference in comfort and the ability to sleep. Now, one thing I don't think that anyone ever told me as I was researching this was getting out of bed. Of course, they talked about like, the bed that elevates and that'll be helpful, but nobody talked about how to actually get out of bed. And so I thought of all of my yoga experience at that point, and I was like, oh, they tell you don't just like get straight up. They tell you to roll on your side, and then they tell you to do this, and then they tell you to do that. So getting out of bed was very challenging because, again, these incisions were on the abdomen, right at the part that kind of like, your core is a big fucking deal. It does everything. And so, yeah. It was challenging, but ultimately I figured out like, okay, roll on your side, put your feet down, push myself up with my other arm. I was literally rolling over to my side. I would be on my right side, I would roll over to my right side. I would swing my feet down. I would use the one hand to push like across my body to push myself up so I could finally get upright. And then I could slowly get out of bed while holding my incisions the whole time. Now, mind you, it wasn't until just a few days ago on Sunday, today's Friday, it was on Sunday night that I discovered apparently you can wear and talk to your surgeon about this. Again, I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, but I finally read on someone's Reddit that they actually used a surgery binder, like a post-surgery binder. And it's just like, people use it after like postpartum and stuff like that. And it kind of applies like a compression to your abdomen and helps. And I did some research to see if that's really okay. And at that point, I was almost 3.5 weeks post-op. And I was like, fuck it, I'm ordering one. And but in the meantime, I was like, oh, we have some ace bandages. Let me just like wrap some ace bandages because the one thing was I felt like I had to keep holding my belly. And that part was like, because it was painful to walk. So I felt like I had to keep holding my belly, but it was because I was holding the incisions. Every now and again, I'm still doing that. But since Sunday night, well, technically Monday, when I started wrapping the ace bandage around and not too tight because you just need some gentle compression to hold things together. And I trust that I discovered that at the exact right time for me. And so, yeah, so it would just hurt to walk. So I would be holding like my abdomen together, holding my stitches together, it felt like while I was walking and moving. And And so, yeah, that's how I was, doing things for a while. Just like, okay, now I'm holding my belly, and now I'm very, very slowly walking to the bathroom, or I'm very, very slowly walking up to, the couch. And having my mom there the first week was great because this is what she used to do for work. She was in a hospital, working as a nurse in a hospital, and she would help people, patients post surgery and things like that. So it was really great having her. And so, yeah, she's like, I'm really impressed with how good you're doing. You were able to walk from the driveway, from the car into the couch, like you're walking around the house, you're doing great. And so, over the past month, from a physical perspective, like I feel like every day I have felt just a little bit better than the day before from a physical perspective. From a physical perspective, I feel like I have likely been recovering exactly as expected. And that's what I've been telling people. Like physically, I'm recovering exactly as expected. What was unexpected was the levels of mental fatigue that I have continued to experience. And now, mind you, I am aware that this episode is at this point like 45 minutes long. I am probably going to need a nap when I get off of this. And this might be like recording today might be the only thing that gets done. But yeah, it's one of those things where the mental exhaustion and the mental fatigue I was not expecting. And some of that could have been the anemia that I was experiencing prior, even though I had done 5 iron infusions leading up to the surgery to help increase the or decrease the iron loss from blood loss in surgery to keep my reserves up. Like I needed it because my levels were down anyway. But also I needed it to prepare for surgery. So I did just finish a round of 5 um, iron infusion treatments right before my, I finished the week before surgery. But I also, again, am a highly sensitive fucking person. Okay, I may not say it that way. I, again, am a highly sensitive person. I also have the Hashimoto's, the pre-diabetes, diabetes stuff, right? So there are other factors that are contributing. And so the mental fatigue was the thing I did not expect and anticipate. After about 1 to 2 hours of anything that required mental exertion, including just a phone call with a friend, I would be donezo. I'm like, I'm so fucking done. Like, all I can do is this. Like, I would have half an hour phone calls. Like, a half an hour phone call with a friend would be too much. Like a 20-minute call, I could do a 20-minute call. But if it pushed 30 minutes, like instantly my brain was like, we're just done here. And I would need to take a nap. And so technically today, the 19th, I was supposed to return back to work, but the type of, to my day job, we've talked about that, I think, right? Yeah, I talked about that in my previous episode, revealed all of that in the previous episode. But I was supposed to return to my day job today. And when I met with the doctor last week, I was like, physically, I think the healing is fine. There's still some discomfort. There's still like stretchy tightness feelings, things like that. And there's still discomfort, but more so is the mental fatigue, like 1 to 2 hours of anything that requires mental exertion, and I'm done. And in the line of work that I do at my day job, my W-2 job, I was like, I can't, like, I cannot sit here and listen to people and like show up and be good at my job. Like, it's just not happening. So I asked for a couple more weeks off, which she granted me. She's like, of course, we'll give you that time to more fully recover. And I'm like, thank you so much. And um, so yeah, and then actually the most interesting thing happened Wednesday night, so 2 days ago, like a day and a half technically, Wednesday night, the eve of 4 weeks since surgery. um, I was reading, like I was scrolling on Instagram, I was looking at some stuff, and I thought of my clients because that's one of the things that I actually do is I do think of my clients. I see something and I'm like, oh, this is really relevant to this person. Oh, this is really relevant to that person. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really relevant to that person. And I'm so glad they connected with someone who could help them with that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm thinking about my clients. So that to me was a sign that my brain is turning back on And that, on October 6th, when it is time to officially return back to work, that I will be ready to go. So yeah, that is the story. And it's like, can't believe we've been here for a little over like, roughly 45-ish minutes, a little more possibly. And yeah, and I wanted to again because I found so much value in watching other people's stories, in reading them, in hearing about them, that I felt called to share my experience and my 1 month post-op. And like I said, every day I am a little bit stronger. I have a mentor who's had surgery, and she said, "You're not going to be judging your progress based on your pre-surgery. You're going to be judging it as surgery as day one. And every day, are you doing a little bit better than surgery day one? And if you are, then great, you're right on track." And so that's what I went with. I went with that. And every day I am doing a little bit more. Like earlier this week, I think it was on Wednesday, I was able to put my tennis shoes on by myself. A week and a half prior to that, I was completely unable to put my tennis shoes on by myself. And exactly a week and a half later, on this past Wednesday, just a couple days ago, I was able to put my tennis shoes on by myself. And I was like so excited, because again, that's the progress that we're looking for like, oh my God, I did that. This week, I've also been feeling more called to wear real clothes. Like this whole time, I have been wearing, like, I bought these dress. I already had a couple, and I was like, these are going to be from like perfect for recovering from surgery. They're these cotton, similar to this, like a cotton, like a jersey type fabric, oversized dresses that will probably turn into nightgowns once this is all over. But they have been like, those have been what I've lived in. Like no bra, just panties, pads, panty liners, and then these like oversized dress because it didn't rub against the fabric, the stitches or the incisions or anything like that. Oh yeah, that was fun. When I had to peel my incisions off myself, almost passed myself out, because there was one that was looking a little like really ugh, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna pass out. So I had to stop. I had to call my mom so she could talk me through it. And then she's like, you don't have to do them all in one day. And I was like, oh, good call. And it wasn't the stitches, it was the steri strips. But because of the blood that had crusted under it from that first day, they were a little crusty. I'm not going to get into all the details, but one looked like it hadn't properly sealed. It looked like there was still flesh. Now, granted, that was probably me just freaking the fuck out. But I was like really concerned. I was like, oh my God, do I have to go back to the doctor? Do I have to go in person? Like, but that's just who I am. My brain runs towards like anxiety. It just is what it is. Part of my neurospicy brain. But anyhow, so yeah, it was actually more comfortable to wear clothes while the steri strips were on. And then after the steri strips came off, or after I had to peel them off, because it had already been 2 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I can't remember. And then you have to like get them off at some point. And I am like sensitive to the adhesive shit. Like if you're watching the video, I don't know if you can see it, but right here where they had put the IV, there's still, and then where they put the Band-Aid afterwards, even though I told them I think I have a latex sensitivity. Apparently it might not be a latex sensitivity, or maybe I have that too, but also an adhesive sensitivity. And so there is still, the video quality is not that great, but there is still this patch of discolored skin and like just an irritation from where the adhesive was, and the same thing on like where the steri strips were, and where some of the band-aids, the stuff to keep it all together. It's still yeah, very dry, discolored, irritated. Nothing is infected, it's just skin irritation from the adhesives, which really fucking sucks, but tis what it is. And I'm again just super glad that everything went without complications. It was all benign. I had amazing surgeon and surgical team, and I've had people to really show up and support me through this. and that my body is physically recovering as expected for someone of my age with my health conditions, and that the mental fatigue is hopefully starting to subside also. Now, I think one more thing I will say, because I know people get curious about this. I did actually start my period overnight, the night of surgery. And I knew like that was probably going to happen. I was probably going to have my period like the day of surgery, and it did. It started overnight. And and that was fine. I went in knowing that because I was like, if we're gonna have issues down there, might as well have them all at the same time. And then they do tell you that when you do get your period after your surgery, like your cycles can be a little off for the first couple cycles, that it could be worse. From everyone that I've spoken to and a lot of experiences that I've read and heard on the internet, people say that they had a better experience for their first full period. Now for me, because I have been tracking cervical mucus and like temperature, things like that, like I do different methods of tracking my cycles. And it seems like I did, if I ovulated, like my cervical mucus, whatever cervical mucus does, but it was delayed. And so I was like, okay, I will probably be starting my my mom was like, it's great that your period was already lighter, even considering that you had surgery, but they also probably like sucked a bunch of stuff out when they cleaned everything up after surgery. And I was like, oh, good point. Not that I know that that's what happened, but you know, in surgery, they got to clean shit out, right? But already that first period, even after surgery, was like not bad at all. And you know what? That could be contributing to the mental fatigue too, but whatevs. But yeah, so having that first period, right, like when I had surgery. But my mom was like, technically that's not your first period, because the fibroid was still there. Like all the uterine lining, all of that had still been there with the fibroid there. And I was like, oh, good call. So I haven't yet had my first official post-surgery period. And it is probably anticipated over the next few days. If you follow me on social, at Shirani M Pathak, especially over on Instagram, that's where I've been sharing a lot of these stories. And so if you follow me over there, I will probably share with you how the first surgery or the first period post surgery has been. But I've heard a lot of really hopeful stories about that. So I'm hopeful that it will be good. And so, anyways, that is the conclusion. I cannot believe we are here at almost another hour. For this episode to give you the 1 month post op. And I have a couple mental notes. I'm going to need to write them down so that my neurospicy brain remembers, but I am going to have to write them down. That I have a couple other episodes. One is going to be how my surgeon literally embodies the work of Embody Love, which, by the way, is my $37 foundational on demand course for how the fuck we build our new world while the one that we are living in is crashing and falling down all around us. It is all about our nervous systems, how they work, how supremacy culture has hijacked it, and what we need to do in order to reclaim sovereignty over our nervous systems and basically divest from the systems that have hijacked our nervous systems. And that is the Embody Love course. And so it's like I said, it's $37. Actually, I'm changing the pricing. It's going to be $7 for those who need. 37 is its regular price, and then it's going to be 67 for those who can add additional support, so like a community support level. And I'm really excited for that pricing change. Since I'm not making it to the meeting just started 1 minute ago. Maybe what I will do is I will sit here and work on some of those updates and upgrades right now, and then I will definitely be mentally spent for the day. But yeah, so I have the Embody Love course available over at ShiraniMBatak.com. All the links will be in the show notes, video descriptions, wherever you're finding it. You'll find the link. And so that's my primary entry offer right now. Of course, I have the book Fierce Authenticity, Show Up, Be Seen, Get Love. That is the absolute foundational basics for people who have zero experience in any healing work. That one right there. And it's also good review for people who already have experience in healing work, and it tells us all about our own narratives, our own stories. It was written prior to when I really started bringing a systemic lens into the work. But that's like this is like the level zero. Level zero is the Fierce Authenticity book. But the foundational basics is in Embody Love, my on-demand class. And so I have a mental note, the the episode for how my surgeon truly was a living example of what it looks like to embody love, especially in a profession that can be so stressful for everyone involved, right? Medical industrial complex. Like she was literally one of those rarities that are providing great quality care within a fucked up system. And so I have that episode and then the episode of reclaiming or claiming a new intro for myself, which included uh, reclaiming a prior title. So I have those two episodes brewing for you. They will drop whenever they are ripe and meant to drop. And until then, take such good care. Thank you for joining me for what is now a 3-hour journey. The 2 hours of episodes 4.1 and 4.2, which talk about the everything the whole 3.5, 4.5 year saga before the surgery, and then this 1 hour episode from the 1 month post-op experience. And so thank you for joining me. And again, if you or someone you love has a uterus and is experiencing any type of challenges with their menstrual cycles or bulk or bloating or something is just not right, share this episode with them and maybe it will reveal something for them that will be valuable for them. Again, thank you so much. Mwah, 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 mwah. I love you so much. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you again next time. Take really good care.